Hey everybody, welcome to another Kitfox Draw and Lore episode. Where I talk about things, questions people might have about my comic that I can answer, and just draw suggestions while I'm doing it. It's going to be a little bit different this time. We've got, I just wanted to try this out and see how it goes. Borrowing slash stealing the Rooster Teeth kind of death battle thing because I wanted to see what people might come up with for, say, one of my characters and either another one of my characters. But honestly, let's be real, it was going to be some other pop culture thing, going head to head and seeing who would come out on top. First of all, we'll just make sure everything's going okay with the sound. Hey, SC Pilot. Hey, Zatali. Hey, Mordak. You got a raid to get to. I'll probably be late to this. Yeah, it's fine. We can always watch it back later. And yeah, me and G are a little under the weather. We've been sick last week, so for the last week. So depending on how long my voice holds out, this may be a shorter one, but we'll see how it goes. And if I say anything especially wild, it's probably because I've still got a bit of that old brain fog. Um, well, good luck with the raid. Yeah, so I guess we'll jump straight into it. Oh, I didn't have a preview pickup. That's all right. That's fine. This is my Beatles White album. But it's actually, yeah, it's making a statement or something. Anyway, so yeah, we'll go and have a look at some of the ones we've got to start with. So we've had a fair few suggestions for characters to go against each other. So yeah, the format's going to be something like, I mean, you've probably, whoa, what have I done? Oh, there we go. If you've seen any of the death battle things, it's like you go through their powers and then you sort of, well, what they would do is do an animation of it sort of play out, and at the end you would see who would end up winning the fight, and they'd sort of discuss kind of why that happened. But obviously, it's going to be not that this time. I'll kind of just go through the powers, the abilities, kind of set the scene, what's going on, and draw them fighting, and then at the end I'll be like, yeah, this is probably what will happen. And so I don't know, draw X's on the eyes of the one who died. But yeah, so a lot of the the suggestions have been really cool so far, and yeah, like similar kind of sort of analogous characters from different medias, sort of coming up against the things that I've done. And I guess the main problem there is going to be maybe scale, because a lot of my characters are real little, and most of characters from other stuff are normal human size. So I don't know, it might factor in, it might not. But the first one suggested is going to be Emperor Shawl from the In Our Shadow comics versus Dr. Victor Von Doom from Marvel. So yeah, kind of similar characters on the surface of things. So I'll just kind of, I guess, maybe we'll run down. I'll probably just like talk about it while I'm drawing it. So I kind of run through their stuff now. Doctor Doom, like I'm sure most people will know about what his deal is. Yeah, so automatically we've got two kind of dictators of their own, like empires, in which most people that exist in those empires sort of revere them as a dictator, not a dictator. Um, well, I mean they are one, but they're also like pretty well liked by their people. So yeah, Doctor Doom's got Latveria, the completely real country, and Emperor Shawl has got the entire northern hemisphere of the planet Earth in the year 50,000. So yeah, I guess to start off with, go through some of their stuff they can do. So maybe I'll put it on the side there, just like some key points. So Emperor Shawl, aka Nair, and Doctor Doom, aka Victor Von Doom. So both of them kind of right off the bat pretty similar in terms of their kind of what they're all about and the fact that they both have incredibly high egos, and they also are sort of genius level in the worlds that they exist in, and they have both pretty powerful kind of physical abilities, both in terms of like their own bodies, either like from the sort of enhancements and suits and whatever they've given themselves, and also in terms of their ability to create robots and machines. And they're also actually pretty powerful when it comes to their mind abilities. So actually fairly similar characters. I didn't really realize this until I kind of looked into it a little bit. But yeah, so Shaw I guess in terms of like their powers, one would be like probably vast resources. Oops, that's not English. Boop boop. Vast resources, and same over here. So he's basically got all of Latveria, uh, as well as other sort of cosmically. He can basically do whatever he wants, go anywhere, get whatever he wants from anywhere. So they can just essentially have unlimited resources to kind of build stuff. So in this particular case, the fight generally, what I had in mind was that they would sort of meet and have all the kind of stuff that they would normally have, and then kind of fight each other on that sort of field. They sort of come against each other, they see each other as a threat, and then they just fight in the location with sort of the stuff you would assume they would normally have. However, both of these characters, a lot of their power comes from like external elements. So I think it's going to factor into the fight. So they both got their stuff. And actually, let's just forget about this because they're both going to be so similar. It's going to be writing the same thing for everything. So let's just like get rid of all that. Let's just undo all of that. Oh, this is a good chance to find out how many undos are in open canvas. Unlimited? Perhaps? Close enough to unlimited. Yeah. So in terms of other abilities, Emperor Shoal's got so let's just start drawing this over here. See how I go there. He is a rat, essentially, so I guess for anyone sort of not sort of clued up with the In Our Shadow comic, it's sort of set in the future where still kind of like for unknown reasons. It's sort of, yeah, the humanity's died out and other animals have kind of taken their place, and especially ones that had opposable thumbs or the ability to like fairly easily evolve into that. Um, they they're the ones who've sort of taken over and inherited the niche that humanity existed in the earth. And over 50,000 years, they've a lot of them have evolved. Not all the animals, but things that sort of use typically would use their hands for stuff, like their paws and things, have evolved in the human what humans left behind to kind of become the new sort of dominant race. So rats were the first ones to evolve because they both evolve. They have very short lifespans and they can like evolve fairly quickly, and they also can manipulate things with their paws, and they also have like a very an ability to survive in a lot of places and adapt to things, which I say only really because that's going to um, come into play a little bit in terms of kind of the survivability and their powers and stuff like that. So so it's going to be like the last part of the fight. I'll add sort of parts in kind of as it goes along. So Emperor Shoal, yeah, he's got sort of physically, just before we get into any external factors, he has superhuman strength. Well, I say superhuman strength, but probably. But he's only 3.5 feet tall. Is him? He normally wear a lab coat, but at this point it's kind of like sort of come off a little bit. Don't like that hand really. He has much very highly above average strength and speed, which doesn't come into play too much since he doesn't really fight his own fights that much. He sort of more relies on his technology and other people around him to kind of do his stuff. And it's only when he actually like really has to fight that he will kind of step in himself and do anything like that. But yeah, his so first of all, his ability: superhuman strength, superhuman speed. Even if fighting like a normal human, he would probably still have the upper hand in terms of like power and dexterity and things like that. And because he's like lived so long, like he's 46 years old in the time of the first comic, which by rat standards is like incredibly ancient. So because of the way that their minds sort of work on a bit of a faster time span, he is he's had a like basically 4 or 5 or even 6 generations worth of understanding people, understanding how things work, understanding the world, understanding technology, physics, all that kind of stuff. Which brings me to the next part of it, which he has been affected by a device called the neural flare. What that does is that basically downloads into your mind the sum of all human knowledge and also rewires your brain. Your Brian. I did that last time. No, I didn't. I did it in our Power Rangers roleplay. That was a Freudian slip because Bryan Cranston was Zordon in the Power Rangers movie. So when I was talking about some brain powers, I just kept saying Brian. Anyway, so his Brian has been rewired to also be able to make use of all that knowledge. So he's incredibly smart. He's incredibly like learned. So he can sort of read people very easily. He can not read minds, but he can sort of essentially know what you're going to do and anticipate what you're going to do based on your facial features, your body language, all that kind of stuff. And he's also, yeah, super genius. So he knows how to build like incredibly powerful, incredibly advanced machines. He's got a good understanding of sort of gravity manipulation, so anti-gravity, energy weapons. He can build the type of weapon known as sort of diffusers, which are essentially like a beam or a blade that can sort of break the bonds between atoms or and sort of slice through anything essentially. And depending on the power of the diffuser, it can like have a longer range and do all sorts of stuff. So he's got access to technology like that. Let's just put a little diffuser in his hand. So a pistol that basically accelerates a particle to near light speeds in a gravity chamber, and sort of transition and then sort of launches that out the barrel with a certain type of energy that will, essentially go through anything. Probably not energy fields, although energy sort of, besides one certain type of one, energy fields aren't really a thing in the universe. I guess that brings me to the next thing that he has, which is a necklace, a device that links his mind to another dimension of pure energy, and using the brain as a computer to sort of calculate the transition of that energy into the real world, he can sort of project a version of himself based on the energy in that dimension into this one. So that will allow him to create and pilot these huge machines that use like a projected soul basically as their like central framework, and to which they can attach armor and bits and pieces. But also it allows him to project a energy field around himself, an energy field, whatever, close enough, around himself that's like usually takes the form of a sphere, goes right around their body, and that can basically take one hit of anything before it can deflect incredibly powerful attacks. It's again like a concentrated energy field of the energy that exists in the other dimension. And because it's from another dimension, it can basically stop anything. It's because matter and energy from our universe can't really interact with it. The thing that causes it to eventually go down is the link that you have, like sort of the power that your brain requires to project it can be overloaded, so you can break that link between that other energy source from the other dimension. And when that happens, your little necklace with the crystal that allows you to be joined to that other dimension will shatter. And when that happens, you can no longer bring up the thing. But until it happens, you've basically got an impenetrable, invincible energy shield. And yeah, so he's essentially invincible as long as that's there. And he'll have weapons that can pass through any sort of matter with relative ease. He also has, and I'll draw some of these in the background, his what's sort of been termed striders, which is a type of machine that he gained the ability to construct from using the neural flare, sort of selectively gain some knowledge that would allow him to create these machines. And they are, they're powered by gravity manipulation. They are carbon fiber built, so they don't contain any metal really. They have a mix of like incredibly high density carbon fiber. Oh, sorry, that's not to say that. They have no sort of iron or ferrous materials. They're partially composed of lead because the gravity engines work a lot better with kind of a very high density, high weight things. They can sort of redirect the gravity associated with those things very easily. And yeah, so they're very heavy unless powered by their anti-gravity things. But because of that, they have a lot of momentum, a lot of weight, and they come in lots of different shapes and sizes, from like a suit size that would give you also this basic thing. So you've got the gravity pack back here that will enhance his already prodigious like speed and strength. Not so much the speed, but his strength is like enhanced 3 times by the suit that he's wearing. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a fair bit. And that goes from this to like a human-sized suit, which allows you to fight human-sized combatants, and a rat-sized thing would sort of fit in the chest, up to the regular Strider, which is these kind of ones, and they come in the combat form and the utility form. These are both utility forms, and they will be about sort of 15 meters tall or thereabouts. There's the next size up, which are about kind of 100 meters long, and then there's the even bigger ones, which are about 2 kilometers long, so about the size of a little bit bigger than a Star Destroyer. And those are like incredibly big, incredibly powerful, and they all use versions of the diffuser weapon. So they're they don't have energy shields as such, but they also don't have any exploding sort of fuel sources. They're very durable, very tough, and they have weapons that can cut through anything. They have computer guided defense systems, so anything like missiles, even so ballistic stuff that isn't incredibly high speed, they can just deal with very easily. And Shaw would be able to, like, at least at the height of his power, be able to control hundreds and thousands of these at once. So having those going around the place, pretty difficult to deal with, and sort of with the speed and agility that would, one, because they're being controlled by a rat brain, not a human brain, have higher agility, and their power system allowing them to function at a very high rate of speed and dexterity. So they if they came across anything from our universe like a jet or a tank, there'd really be no competition. The combat ones also have things called COWs, which is a catalytic oxidation field, which essentially turns any metal that is reduced in its effectiveness by rusting. That includes things like copper wiring. The bodies of basically any human machine would be just left inert and destroyed. And this happens when they come up against Madagascan lemur ships and tanks, which are based on essentially like modern day human technology with a little bit of extra. They're basically instantly destroyed without even a fight. So anything like that would be not very effective against anything Emperor Shaw would be able to bring to a fight. And apart from that, he has got his let's not bring that in. He's got a network of mind mind reading subclass of rat called the lab rat, which he sort of employs as his assassins, and also to counteract the fact that one of the one things he can't do is completely mind read. So he's not very able. He's not very yeah, he against like a mutant or someone from maybe the Marvel universe who could read minds or manipulate minds or stuff like that. He without his lab rat support, he wouldn't really have a lot that he could do against that, except for the fact that his mind is incredibly dense. The way it's been restructured by the neural flare, his mind is very difficult to read, and that's brought up several times in the comic. His mind's very hard to read. You can do it, like a very powerful mind reader can do it, but it will have an effect on their own mind if they try, just because of the feedback of trying to like disseminate his crazy thoughts. So yeah, that's basically him. So yeah, brief summary. Yeah, superhuman strength and speed, has an arsenal of incredibly powerful machines. He is difficult to mind read, impenetrable energy field, weapons that can like pass through any matter or any most energy based stuff. Immune to one other thing, immune to disease, immune to poison, because his body has been reconstructed by nanomachines after he was it automatically happened, or he subconsciously did it when he was caught in a nuclear blast. So he rebuilt his body into something that can resist basically anything. He's functionally immortal, and he is super smart, super strong. So that's basically him. So now we'll go over to the other side. Now let's bring up a little reference, because okay, but first I'm going to try to draw Doctor Doom from memory. It's been a while. I was a Marvel head. Like, I don't know, when I was in high school, I did read a lot of Marvel books. I mainly had Spider-Man, a couple of X-Men, and Doctor Doom wasn't really in there. I guess he's more of a Fantastic Four kind of guy. But if I was to draw Doctor Doom from memory, I know he's like this kind of thing with his mouth. He's kind of got like this sort of business, and this. He's kind of got like kind of metal eyebrows. I wanna sort of bit of a nose. That maybe. And like he's like just mad always. We'll get to that. And he's like got a hood usually, which with like kind of this thing, and like under that he's just got your typical kind of let's see if I can move this canvas a little bit. No, it's going. Sorry, it's like reverse. I like my control system to be like aircraft control system, and when it goes backwards, I didn't like it, and it was a little laggy as well. So I was like, what do I do here? He's got like this sort of business, like the shorthand, Marvel shorthand for like a robot. I think. Anyway, that was my Doctor Doom from memory. So let's see if see what he actually looks like. Mr. Victor, go over to here and go over to uh, not Professor Doom. I guess he never taught. Um, okay, well that's not too far off, actually. Um, yeah, all right. I mean, I got his nose a bit wrong, but okay, I'm pretty happy with that. But we'll get rid of this little schnoz because his nose is actually a triangle. He must have been playing Animal Crossing and or watching a regular show and thought Benson had a pretty red nose. But we also okay, so it comes like oh not that big, like that. And then yeah, apart from that, that's not that's not too far off, I guess. Um I have the chin bit. And he does have rivets around, not on the eyebrows like I thought, kind of a little higher, like here. I always thought that was a bit weird. Like whenever I see like a robot or a machine, and it was like this in Star Trek, in the original Star Trek, I thought, oh, the original Enterprise in the '60s one, it's so basic looking because it's so advanced, it wouldn't have rivets or armor or plates or anything like that. And then when they sort of changed the design to have that kind of stuff, I'm like, kind of looks less advanced to me now that you can see paneling and not so much rivets on the Enterprise, but you see it sometimes in things like that. Just immediately dates it to kind of like a almost post-industrial level of technology. Like you're not even really going to see rivets much now in a thing. Like in World War II, they got rid of rivets on tanks because you get hit once and all the rivets pop out and kill everyone in it. So that's I don't know. That seems like kind of silly. But anyway, that's what he's got, and he's got his big hood, but it doesn't really do this. It kind of goes whoop, kind of. He's got his little round Thor-esque little circles. So I'll get rid of all this. The arms are basically that though. So he's got these. That means you're. I wonder if he's got some sort of Asgardian type technology going on here. There's a little thing connecting this, and yeah, his cape sort of connects to that like so. And then the rest is sort of like this. Okay, it's like a full kind of tunic sort of thing. Use my little clouds as an ability to cover up from the fact that I haven't got any sort of ground here, and if they were to kind of face off against each other, it would be not at eye level, but they can basically manipulate the world around them. So um, who's to say how they're going to stand? High ground doesn't exist for these two. So yeah, Doctor Doom. Let's get into it. Now I knew coming into this that this would be a pretty good fight actually because Emperor Shaw's incredibly OP, and so is Doctor Doom. It's almost like someone at Marvel kind of just like just loved him or just really wanted him to just be good at basically anything. So he can do it all, man. He can do whatever you can think of. He's probably done it. So I'm just gonna start remembering what I know about him before I kind of look up stuff, and then I'll kind of consolidate it if I miss some stuff out. But essentially, first of all, he's a genius. He's like a super genius. I think he's like one of the smartest people in the world. Like his in the Marvel universe, that's saying something because there's like every second person is a super genius. But him and Reed Richards are kind of like rivals in their, Mr. Fantastic, rivals in their intelligence, but they're both a little different in kind of their shtick. They're both like very, very super smart, but their sort of expertise is a little different in what they're kind of trying to do. The main thing being that Doctor Doom is also a incredibly powerful sorcerer. So as well as being a genius, and I think he's got an eidetic memory, so like he just can remember anything, like photographically. I think. Oh, that might be Reed, or that might be Doctor Strange. I know he can do it, but pretty much everyone can do it. I think. So yeah, they can just remember whatever. So yeah, he's advanced in the fields of mainly robotics and any sort of technology, and also he's in the mystic arts. And yeah, between those two things, he can sort of build his own body and build other machines to essentially do whatever he wants. Basically, he can come up against anyone and have a pretty good chance of dealing with it. So yeah, in terms of like stuff, yeah, I know he has Doombots, so he can build his own sort of machines. A lot of the time, he has the Doombots can look like him or like other stuff, and all the time when he's doing something or something is resolved, it's like, oh, he wasn't here the whole time. That was actually a Doombot. I think that ended up being kind of like a meme that would happen with like all of his stuff. But yeah, let's jump over. I'll just sort of reel off. I'll go over to the wiki and see, um, reel off some of his actual abilities. So I'm not going to be leaving anything out because this is important stuff. So let's see, wiki. Let's go down to his abilities. Okay, yeah. So genius level intellect. So much like Emperor Shawl already. Mastery of dark magic, which might give him a bit of an edge, perhaps. Mind transference, yeah, so he can put his mind into other stuff, into his Doombots, into his whatever. Yeah, so it's pretty good. Technopathy. Not entirely certain what that means, but I showed like telepathy with machines. I guess he can just control machines and put his minds into machines and things like that. He's an expert combatant and swordsman, as well as all that. So yeah, both of them are pretty good, actually handy in a fight. Peak human conditioning. So I guess he's like, kind of like, Steve Rogers in a way, being that he's like the best sort of version of himself, of a human that he could be. And yeah, he wears powered armor. So just like Shawl, he's got powered armor that gives him superhuman strength and durability. Flight. So this isn't actually ever shown, but Shawl can't fly with his anti-gravity pack, although he probably could give himself something that would let him fly. The larger striders can fly. So he probably could also do that. Fly by rocket boost, force field generation. So they both have sort of force field-esque abilities. And gauntlet lasers and force blast. So yeah, so over here he's got, I think if I remember correctly, and from the picture I was looking at, sort of Emperor Palpatine type kind of energy blast that he can do from his hands, like lightning sort of stuff, and various gadgets and high-tech weaponry. The simple synopsis, I'm just going to go down to maybe just make sure I didn't cut anything out there. Of course, yeah, that little snippet probably didn't really give like the full range of everything that he can do. Yeah, so rules his nation of Latveria with an iron fist. And yeah, again, one of the other things they have is like a massive ego. So one of both of their weaknesses, and sort of one thing that the thing that brought Emperor Shawl down was the thought that he was in control of everything that was happening, even though he's probably smarter than everyone around, doesn't really matter. And Brianna said, there's sort of a famous quote from the start of the comic and at the end, it doesn't matter if they're smarter than you as long as you're smarter than they think you are. So he was brought down because Brianna had a scheme that if he'd thought about it, he probably would have seen it coming. but because he didn't think anyone was actually possible of tricking him like that, um, was sort of his undoing. And same thing with Doctor Doom. He'll often sort of fall into being a victim of his own hubris. I want to see what a Doombot looks like actually. So I can put a few of those in the background. I think they just look like him. Yeah, they just look like him. So yeah, I guess I'll just put some other ones sort of back here, some copies of him, or which one's the real him? Who knows? Shaw probably would be able to figure that out from his sort of wisdom that he has. He'd be able to tell what's a robot and what isn't. But in the heat of combat and just having to deal with all this stuff at the same time, so I put some big explosions back here. This would be like a probably continent spanning thing, because I feel like at the start they would come up against each other with probably like underestimating each other or not seeing each other as a threat, and kind of just go from that sort of slowly escalating, being like, oh, they beat this stuff, I better send this. It's like, oh, okay, they overcame that, better ramp it up a little bit, and it would eventually come down to, okay, so the Doombot's, they're probably in the foreground. The Striders back here are a little bit more in the background, fighting some other stuff off screen. And yeah, so yeah, what would happen if they? Oh yeah, let me just go back to his stuff and make sure I haven't missed anything, so I'm not gimping him on his abilities. But I think that's basically it. Sorry for sniffing again. I'm a little sick. Oh yeah, he can. He has made a functioning time machine. I forgot about that. So that is something that would probably come into play. I suppose, yeah, he can go back in time, forward in time. He can do whatever he likes, anytime and place in the Earth's time stream. So if he managed to get to that, that could probably be a thing. So in terms of how the fight would go down, yeah, I feel like, yeah, they would sort of underestimate each other at first, and then sort of come to blows in person eventually, after all this other stuff kind of worked itself out and destroyed itself. So I feel like Doctor Doom would probably find a way to fairly easily destroy the Striders, even though they're sort of immune to most sort of human level technology as it exists now. He would eventually find a way to overcome that. So those would be destroyed probably by any of his like energy sort of stuff, or just being able to kind of control the minds of the pilots and doing it that way, because the Striders have not really got any ability innately to stop any kind of mind powers, despite the fact that lab rats exist. They were usually on the side of the rats, so all the rat machines wouldn't really need a way to stop any sort of mind reading abilities from working. And certainly Shaw wouldn't really want that, since they always worked for him. So he'd probably be able to, mainly as the use of his sorcery, be able to find a way to deal with those. And then when they fought together, or fought against each other, they probably try out their kind of basic weaponry first of all. So the energy attacks of both would probably kind of bounce off the shield of the other, because even though the diffusers can go through anything, they can really only go through anything physical. And because the thing that makes them powerful is their ability to break through atomic structures, it doesn't really matter if you're dealing with an energy shield. So as has been seen in the comics, unless it's insanely powerful, an energy attack isn't going to overpower a diffuser isn't going to overpower any sort of incredibly powerful energy shield. And the ones that would sort of have handheld probably wouldn't be enough. So they'd probably do that. And then because of that, it would end up being sort of a close combat fight. I feel like Doctor Doom, through his hubris, would think that he'd be able to defeat a rat in combat fairly easily. Little did he know that Shaw was also probably banking on the same thing, unaware that Doctor Doom, similarly to himself, having like a power suit. And so they probably fight in close combat for a little while, with their sort of close combat-ish sort of weapons, both being inside the shield of each other at this point, not being able to really gain the upper hand. Shaw will probably eventually be forced to get rid of the more cumbersome elements of his shielding his armor, because that wasn't really going to help him much anyway. So yeah, he's got rid of his lab coat, and even like I'm gonna say the remnants of the armor that he's wearing would go away. So I'm gonna sort of redraw this a little bit because he would probably lose all of this. I don't really like that fuzzy eraser. That's better. Yeah, he'd get rid of all of his armor pretty much because that's not really going to do him much good. He'd no longer need his power pack because actually, and I get the spoiler if you haven't seen the main comic, he doesn't really need any of that. He's actually quite a lot stronger without it. And once his suit gets like infected with a sort of a techno virus that Amethyst made, which Doctor Doom would also probably apply, he would get rid of all that, and then he would be reduced to kind of just his normal kind of bodysuit, which is kind of like the undersuit that would allow him to like properly control the power suit and also the ones the bigger striders. You control them using this like undersuit that allows you to control that suit as if it was your own body. So not doing anything, but just for the sake of modesty, you would probably still have that on, and he'd be like incredibly a lot faster. So I'll do the little speed lines showing his speed here. So he'd eventually be forced to like do that, and then I feel like at that point he would probably have the advantage over Doctor Doom because he has incredible durability and physical strength, but Shaw would be pretty wily, incredibly quick. Like if you've ever like looked at even a normal rat for a bit and seen how fast they can move, it's faster than the eye can see. So even though his physical capabilities, I think Doctor Doom would have trouble kind of keeping up with Shaw's speed. I don't think his suit actually increases his speed much. And so Emperor Shaw would get in there, probably score a few little hits on the armor, probably eventually realize that this was a Doombot all along, and then kill that one. And then from off screen, yeah, so Shaw would defeat Doctor Doom, destroy his entire body with his phase transition weapon, not phase transition, his diffuser weaponry. But then off to the side, the real Doctor Doom would come in and say, "Ha, that was a Doombot all along, you fool." But having gained like the data from the fight with the Doombot, he would know that, okay, probably defeating Shaw in a hand-to-hand combat probably isn't viable. So what he'll do is just use his sorcery. And there's really nothing that Shaw can do against that. So from back here, the real Doctor Doom is going to use one of his probably mind powers. And yeah, even though he has a very powerful mind and is resistant to mind reading and stuff like that, he's not immune to it. So it might cause Doctor Doom a little bit of kind of psychic feedback, but in the end, I think if Emperor Shaw and all his resources, all his abilities, all his technology came up against Doctor Doom, I think eventually he would die. So first round, first fight goes to Dr. Victor Von Doom, who would defeat Emperor Shaw, the Lord of the Northern Hemisphere. So yeah, that's the first one and how that would go, I believe. Feel free to have a little chat in the chat, or if you're watching this later, one of the 2 or 3 people who do that, then have a little go in the comments and see what you would think. So yeah, that's the first one. I'll grab another little page, turn this one off, and have a go at the next one. Before I do that, it's been a while since I've been in chat. Let's go and have a look. Do Mortal Kombat. Well, I know what song's going to be in my head for the rest of the day. So much awesome lore. Oh yeah, this is a pretty lore-heavy one, turns out. A little stealth lore. Given that it's actually not a typical lore and jaw. A lot of nosebleeds, so many nosebleeds. Yeah, unbelievable amounts of nosebleeds. One of his best powers is that he has diplomatic immunity. Exactly. Oh, how could I have forgotten his most important power? Actually, I'll leave that back on while I'm talking, so it's just such a blank screen. I will add the nosebleeds in here. And I guess Joel would probably have a nosebleed from being just mind crushed as well. Yes, Dr. Doom is never brought up on charges from his illegal activities because he does have diplomatic immunity because of his high ranking, or he's essentially always an ambassador for Latveria. So he's that. One of his Dr. Doom is very vain. Yep, so is Shaw. Yeah, so I brought that in a little bit. Well, I figured it would be very, very close. Yeah, up until the very end, but just because Shaw has no defense against sorcery, because that doesn't really exist in the real world of Inner Shadow, he wouldn't have any way to defend against it, which might be something that could be a bit of an issue with any like some Marvel stuff going forward here. Yeah. So a very close one. Actually, in my mind, before I started this, I thought it was actually going to be kind of a landslide that Doctor Doom would probably just very easily kill Shoal. The more I thought about it, the more they actually were pretty evenly matched, except for that one little thing. Yeah, so I'll go back in and do the next one. So again from sorry, that one was from SC Pilot, who was kind enough to give me quite a few. Okay. Um, there's a couple of others. Um, ooh, yeah, I like these. So we've got Amethyst versus Lex Luthor. We've got Clover versus Psylocke. Neural Flare Marble versus Lex Luthor. Clover piloting the Serpent mobile suit from Endless Waltz. Oh, I haven't seen. Oh, I have seen that, but a long time ago. Piloting the Zaku 2. Oh God. Oh man, that'd be interesting. I feel like I'd need to look a lot more into it before I did a Gundam related one. J-Runner piloting the Leo mobile suit versus Gamma from Rebel 2 Gundam. Shaw versus Lex Luthor. The three rats from In Our Shadow. Okay, I think Mordak calls them the Three Stooges. They're the ones that Shaw invaded the base of in the flashback. The names are actually Parsley, Thyme, and Rosemary. And I'm sure it's pretty obvious why that is. And the Dom mobile suit. Yeah, some big hitting mobile suits here. Yeah, I probably won't do a Gundam one just now. But I'll have a think about it. Maybe if I do another one of these, I'll have done my research a little more. Fancy Free versus Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. Oh, I just know him as Pedro Pascal. And Johan versus Beerus. Ooh. Oh, that's a good one, actually. I might do Fancy Free versus the Mandalorian just because I haven't drawn Fancy Free in a long time. So, I did watch, I haven't seen the second or third season or whatever of the Mandalorian, but I pretty much got the gist. I'm going for like first or maybe second season Mandalorian lore. So let's just do that one. That probably won't take too long. I nearly went like 45 minutes doing that one, so I better hightail it. So Fancy Free, of course, being the Roselia, who became Rosa Raid from my Nuzlocke comics. So, oh god, goodness, how does the hat is like crazy, and it has kind of like the gator teeth around the outside. Yeah, I think from the back it's something like that. No one can draw a hat from the back. It's physically. I was gonna say it's legally impossible. It's that too. It's legally impossible to draw a hat from the back. But that's as good as a regular human, I think I'm able to do. So yeah, Fancy Free was a Roselia. So I guess for anyone not into the Pokemon as much, basically a plant type Pokemon who has kind of like roses for hands, but Fancy Free has guns for hands. And I think, yeah, they sort of, I'll put their eyes in shadow. I can't remember if it entirely was like that, but we'll have it like that for a little bit of mood lighting. And I'll do we'll go peak Fancy Free, so her Rosa Raid form. She ended up dying as a Roselia in one Nuzlocke because she had such a strong force of will. She was able to sort of reincarnate and appear in a different Nuzlocke in a different region and have a second go. Because she did die before the Elite Four. She got killed by, I think, an exploding Graveler, or no, I think what killed her? Something. But she did end up dying. She came back and then was able to fight the Elite Four. She was in the Sapphire Nuzlocke. She came back and as was ordained, she did end up fighting the Elite Four in the black and white two, the black two Nuzlocke. Now, let me just get reference from my own thing. That's the wrong one. There she is. Okay, so that's a little more intense than that. It sort of folds around a little more, but and she has a big cape. So let's go a big cape. And she's a bit bigger in this form, but still like quite small. Even when it's not like shadow characters, apparently I am doomed to never have any character that's the size of a human, so that they can have a proper fight against one. But that's okay. There's also the artist's tools at my disposal of don't worry about it. So the head's a little flatter than that. It's more like that. Not that that's super important, I feel like. Yeah, so Rose, Fancy Free, was named after the Disney film. I think it was like a bunch of shorts. It was like a little anthology in like 1942 or something like that. I can't remember like the exact era that it was, but it's a really old one. Footloose and Fancy Free, I think was the thing. And something made me think of that, although I can't remember what. It was a reference to that for some reason, but I can't exactly recall off the top of my head. But yeah, she's essentially like Clint Eastwood as a grass type Pokemon. So she has all these grass up. Her main attack was Bullet Seed, which hence I think I might have stolen that from the original Nuzlocke in some way or another. Because Bullet Seed, she had like two revolvers in her Roselia form, a black one and a white one, because that's what you do if you're properly edgy. And then when she became a Rose Raid, she ended up with two miniguns, and they're also still black and white. I can't imagine anything more edgy than that. They've got two miniguns. So immediately, I guess, getting into her power set, she has two Gatling guns, and she can use those to do her Bullet Seed attack. And so she has like regenerative capabilities. Being a grass type, she can regenerate injuries using moves like Leech Seed, Giga Drain, things like that. She has pretty high strength, high maneuverability compared to a person, which I think for all intents and purposes, Pedro Pascal is just a normal guy. Like he's not even a Mandalorian, I don't think. So he's like a normal person. So probably comparable like toughness, probably higher level speed, but durability maybe not so much. I feel like a good hit onto a grass type Pokemon that's only a couple of feet tall is probably going to do a lot of damage, especially against fire type attacks, which may come into play. And yeah, so she is quite powerful, fairly high level Pokemon. I think she's kind of about level 55 or so. So yeah, pretty strong. It's always a bit unclear as to how that power level scales in regards to a person, because they very rarely fight humans, and if they do, they're probably likely to be like a child. So really unclear as to how strong that actually translates to in real life. Let me just get the Mandalorian. And now, I suppose the Mandalorian powers and abilities. High level intelligence. Okay, so Fancy Free has an might as well keep on going with her stuff first. Incredibly high willpower, so strength of will, so much so that she can even like die in one game and then be brought her essence be brought back into a completely different game. So incredibly high willpower. One of her kind of quotes was that like, insert thing here and herself have an understanding. And those things are usually like a metaphysical concept. So like her and power levels, her and death, her and something, they have an understanding. So she seemingly has the ability to make a deal with like a concept that doesn't even have any grounding in reality. So you're sort of like meta reality warping not in any way that she's able to control, but just like innately when it comes to her sort of toughness. And but apart from that, she's not particularly intelligent, um, not particularly athletic, really. Like she can jump around and do stuff, but yeah, not like even really compared to any other Pokemon. But very high physical defense. I wonder if I've got her stats actually. They might have been in the Elite Four fight. Let's see. Was near the end. Maybe I didn't do it for the. Oh yeah, there it is. I have this, the screenshot when you beat the Elite Four doesn't have their stat. Actually, level 60. So that's pretty high. Yeah. So that's probably it for her kind of stuff. Good long range combatant, able to resist injury and sort of heal from injury, and very high willpower. So, as to Mando, he has got high level intelligence. So yeah, kind of shown through from what I've seen, especially. Not always. Being sort of quiet, but it's one of those shows that kind of shows rather than tells. So you get that idea. No, we've been watching a bit of One Piece because yeah, G and I have both been really sick. So we haven't really had the energy or the ability to bring our mind fully to doing much else besides watching One Piece. And in that, you're in no doubt whatsoever at any moment as to what anyone's abilities or health level or anything is, because 15 different NPCs will tell you in a row from just outside the fight, with their mouths agape while shouting it. So yeah, remembering back to the Mandalorian, yeah, high level intelligence. Yeah, you get that from what he does, not so much what anyone says about him, which is cool. That's good storytelling. Let me just get. Okay, I'll do it again before I look up a picture of him. I'm just gonna do that from memory as well and see what happens. But I'll do that while I'm also looking at some. I haven't got a picture of him up, but while I've got a list of his stats. So I feel like it's to be a bit more of a longer range fight. So put a bit of a background in here. Fancy Free is very small, so I'll put him back here. Get some kind of stuff. I don't really recall Mando, but I know the basics of like a Mandalorian helmet. They kind of do this mostly, and they've kind of got like this kind of business going on. Because I'm probably a bit more kind of fluent in like a Boba Fett rather than a like whatever his name is, Mandalorian. I already forgot his name. Something like, and they have usually like this kind of thing on the side. I know Boba Fett has this. I don't think Mandalorian does. It's something like, I know they've got like the little side cheek bit and then this, but maybe it does more like, I don't do more like that. Yeah, I think that looks more right. I think it actually goes like so. Anyway, once I get the proper picture up, I'll have a look. Oh, the point of this was so I could be talking about his abilities. Yeah, so yes, marksmanship skills. So yeah, just part of his, I guess, Mandalorian type training and just in general, a lot of people in the Star Wars universe, pretty good gunslingers, especially if they're like smugglers or bounty hunters or whatever else they're doing. So yeah, pretty high marksman skills. And yeah, he's got pretty good shot. No, I wouldn't say like an incredible shot from what I've seen, but like pretty decent. It's easy to like look at this short list of skills and like kind of have it a bit like overblown. Do you have a cape? He might do. I feel like you probably do. And he's got, I know he gets his like Beskar armor, his like slowly through the series. But yeah, he sort of has a bit of it and then he gets a little bit more and whatever. I did recently paint a bunch of the Star Wars Shatterpoint models, but he wasn't there. But I got a bit of a gist of kind of how the armor sort of goes. So there's a way worse than not to do attempt. Weapons proficiency, yes, you've got like a wide range of weapons, I guess he's got these little gauntlet rocket launchers, kind of like Boba Fett sort of did. He does have flamethrowers, which possibly will be important. He does have blaster, I guess, and he does, at least for a while, have that the dark saber, or like the black Mandalorian lightsaber thing with like the pointy edge. Although I kind of was phasing out a little bit through all that, so I don't super remember. But I'd say he definitely would have that. I'll fix it once I've kind of have a proper look of what it sort of looks like. And yeah, what else has he got? Peak human condition, does he? I guess so. I feel like they just throw that in there for anybody who's like a human who's doing stuff in a fictional world. Well, they must be peak human if they're like doing this. Have them sort of like crouching, ready to do a pounce or whatever. Superior athleticism, I guess. Again, like, oh yeah, they have backpacks. Just remembered something, and usually like one simple sort of rocket in the top. Piloting intuition, survival intuition, master combatant. Okay, so just all the sort of stuff that I would say most would have if you're just a pretty rad fighter at most things. All right. Okay, so let's go find an actual picture, and then I'll kind of run through how I feel like this fight will probably go. The Mandalorian images. Okay. Right. Pretty not very accurate. Oh, not the worst. Actually, yeah, it could have been worse. Okay. So I'll just sort of refine this as we kind of do. So that's what it is. I knew that sort of was wrong. I might as well fix this up while I'm at it. Okay, so if these two came up against each other, like a fairly drastic like drop in power level, like after the first one, probably shouldn't have led with that, but that's okay. So I guess they would meet each other in some scummy outer rim place. Because Fancy Free's sort of like an outlaw. She's got like the outlaw vibes. Probably not an outlaw exactly, but like going around gunslinging, doing that sort of business. And yeah, they meet each other, and yeah, maybe Mando's out to collect a bounty on Fancy Free, or she's just like they probably eventually would team up, but you've got to have a misunderstanding at first where you're both good guys, but you don't know what the other one's really about, so you have a little scuffle until you sort of figure out what the deal is with them. Oh yeah, he's got a bandolier because it's Star Wars, of course he does. Whoop. Yeah, so they'd meet, and for their first fight, I guess they would both kind of size each other up. They both aren't incredibly arrogant characters, and they probably wouldn't really have any assumptions on the other. They'd probably not bring their A game, but more in terms of like, at least at the start, but more in terms of like not wanting to go overboard with doing stuff. And also, they're both type of characters who like they don't have unlimited resources, so they're not going to use all their rockets, all their flamethrowers, all their junk right off the bat. So they're probably going to come in using their basic skills first of all. Excuse me for 1 second. I've got to blow on my nose. Oh. Yeah, so probably they'd come in with the blaster, and Fancy Free would probably come in with something like a leech seed, I reckon. Just like set up a like, I don't want to hurt you, so this is just mainly a status condition effect, and sapping your power. It's not doing no damage. But yeah, if it escalated beyond that, that'd be like a warning shot. Would be like a leech seed. So let's kind of put the leech seed over here to show that she kind of means business. If you stay on that spot, you're gonna have a bad time. And we have got a belt because again it's Star Wars, and we've got that little kind of bib when he's eating his weird space food, and then he's got some little bits. Yeah, so but of course that probably would just escalate the thing a little bit further. So I guess like you probably wouldn't bring out the the saber or whatever it is straight away. He'd probably just bring out the blaster and kind of just shoot the leech seeds. Probably he's got like a pistol, so he'd probably draw that and shoot that stuff, and then the fight would probably really kind of kick off because they both are mean in business at this point. So yeah, probably starting off with the blaster. Although if he has like above average intelligence, he probably would see a little plant thing and he'd probably go straight for the flamethrower, honestly. He might even do that against the leech seed. So yeah, probably like use his like little gauntlet flamethrower and just like incinerate the leech seeds as another little like intimidation tactic. And like just casually like say something pretty quiet about, you know, you don't wanna as long as you know what you're in for kind of thing. Oh yeah, they've always got these like it's like very early 2000s fashion where they've got a sort of like a short sleeve shirt over a long sleeve shirt, although it's often the same color, so you can't really tell. Well, it's kind of interesting. A lot more Star Wars characters have that than I end up thinking that they would. Oh, it looks like I was kind of wrong both ways with this. Um, kind of goes like that. Okay, yeah, that's better. That bit goes all the way down. That makes more sense. And then, oh yeah, it kind of goes like this. Yeah, let's just fix all this up. Yeah, so once the fight gets started properly, he'd probably lead with the flamethrower unless there was a reason not to, I guess. I guess if he didn't want to like completely kill, he'd probably use the flamethrower on the leech seed. Then once Fancy Free didn't back down because she wouldn't, because she's very like hard-headed, they'd probably just go back to using the blaster because that would be something that would probably maybe incapacitate rather than actually straight up killing. So they fight with the blaster, and at this point, she'd probably bring out the Gatling guns, which because they were sort of she probably would have had them concealed under the cloak, so it might be a bit of a surprise. Now, the thing that I was sort of keeping under the belt, keeping the cards close to the chest about was the fact that I'm not sure. Okay, actually, those things are a little bit smaller than that. I don't think. I know Beskar armor can deflect like lasers or whatever a laser is in Star Wars. I don't know if they can deflect bullets. I haven't really seen a bullet. Even Chewie's got an energy crossbow. I'm not sure how good that would be against a incredibly high rate of fire. I mean, miniguns are known for their ability to have such a high rate of fire that if you sort of concentrate on one point, that's going to eat through basically anything. So I do feel like, even though he's very high intelligence, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Star Wars, probably the average person, even one who's like grown up on Mandalore or has Mandalorian training, I don't think they'd be ready for a bullet. I don't think I've ever seen one. So as soon as the bullets start flying from the guns on Fancy Free's arms, I think, yeah, they rev up to full speed. I think he's going to be in trouble. I think he might actually take a fair bit of damage from this. I feel like that's going to cause quite a lot of injury. And like from her like pretty extensive battle experience across two entire Nuzlockes, like years worth of fighting, I feel like she'd know where to hit a human to do. She probably wouldn't try to kill like right off the bat because she's not really a murderer unless she has to be. She'd probably go for like the shoulder shots. The place you shoot someone where you don't want them to get killed or suffer any actual injury. And if it's one piece, 3 scenes from then, it would be as if nothing ever happened. So I feel like she'd like shoot him once she sort of saw that he had the flamethrower and was now using the blaster. She's like, oh, I better put this guy down. So she probably tried to disable him a bit. And one thing I also noticed from Mando is that he's not very good at actually avoiding damage. I feel like he kind of gets used to the fact that he's bulletproof. Laser proof. He gets hit by lasers a lot whenever he's in a fight. It's always bouncing off his head, off his stuff. I feel like he either can't really dodge that fast or he doesn't really care about doing it. I don't think he would have a reason to think to do it. So I think he'd just take it and he'd take a lot of big hits. He wouldn't actually even be that good at dodging. I don't think he's actually that good at dodging. So yeah, he'd take a few shots and that would probably cause a fair bit of injury. At this point, I feel like he would use the flamethrower that he does have. Am I am I having a brain problem? He does have flamethrower, right? I'm pretty sure he does. So he would definitely use that, and um, that would sort of launch up here. I feel like Fancy Free, she knew he had it, so she'd probably be trying to keep her distance. So I'm not sure, especially after he'd just taken a bit of injury. She'd be able to she'd be sort of wary of it and be able to dodge out of the way. But then he'd probably use his backpack to kind of get a little bit closer, and she probably wouldn't be expecting that. So he probably would end up being hit by the flame, which would do a fairly decent amount of damage. Um, but of course, you can't actually hit Leech Seed with any sort of attack. So even though he shot it with the flamethrower, it would still be there. So she would regain a bit of health from the Leech Seed, and he would continue to have his energy sapped from it. And as we've established, at least in the Nuzlocke universe, humans are Pokemon. So Leech Seed would work on him. So he would be getting Leech Seeded. She would take quite a lot of damage from the fire attack, but probably wouldn't hit her head on, so it would not be enough to knock her out. And she would slowly be gaining power at that point. Probably then use some Petal Dance and try to sort of go in with the strongest attack to try to finish this guy. Oh no, she wouldn't do that. She'd probably stick with the thing that seems to be working. So she'd probably try to shoot for a little bit first of all, and but he'd probably be able to dodge a lot more effectively now that he knows that these bullets are gonna injure him. I'm gonna just jump back into chat just in case anyone's contradicting me on this, because I don't want to end up with no. Okay, no one's contradicted me on this just yet, so that's okay. I'm going to assume that he is indeed pretty not immune to being shot with irregular bullets. Okay, yeah, so take a lot of damage, and he'd be constantly being sort of leech seeded. And yeah, his armor probably quite resistant to a lot of stuff. So now that he knows about it and he's dodging and weaving a bit more, Fancy Feet, and especially with his backpack, she's probably not going to be able to get a solid hit. So even though it's not immune to being shot by bullets, it probably would still be able to resist one or two bullets before, enough that she'd never be able to completely pierce it. So at that point, probably time to go into close combat, because at this point she doesn't have any reason to think he's got any close combat weapons. So she jump in with Petal Dance, very powerful physical attack. Is it? Let me just get my stats straight here. I always thought it was, but it may not be. Petal Dance. Not Metal Dance, thing's different. If not, she's going to use Razor Leaf instead. Oh, let's see. Come on. Okay, Petal Dance. 90 base power. Oh, it's a special attack. Okay, it can still be. She'll probably still use it just because it's a little stronger. So you jump up to that, sort of try to get in close, and do the Petal Dance. Just because it's an energy attack doesn't mean it's not close combat. So getting close at that point, Mando would be taking a fair bit of damage from that, between that and the Leech Seed, and he'd sort of have to probably bring out the saber at that point. She wouldn't be expecting it because she wouldn't know what a lightsaber is. So that'd come out. He'd probably get a big hit in, and probably do a fair bit of damage to Fancy Free as well. So being hit by the flamethrower, being hit by the saber, probably bring her down to being nearly dead, I would say. And so she'd probably collapse, and he'd be on the verge of collapsing as well. And probably from the injuries, he's sort of getting slowed, and not really kind of dealing with things super well, because we have seen that he can, eventually succumb to his injuries sort of fairly, not quickly, but he can do. He'd sort of go in for, not for the kill, but probably have to put this thing down. And as he sort of got a bit close, he'd kind of realize his survival intuition would have him realize that something's a little off here. And so Fancy Free has got, even though she looks kind of nearly dead, she does have a few tricks still up her sleeve in the form of Giga Drain, the sort of the life stealing thing. And at this point, his survival intuition would probably show him that her indomitable will would mean that it would take um, probably a lot to actually take her down. I feel like this one, they sort of probably stand off against each other because they both have that idea. And I think that this one might end in a draw. I feel like they've both got the capabilities of killing each other, but eventually, if they sort of fought to a standstill, they would realize that they both didn't really want to kill each other. They're both similar in their kind of outlooks on life, and they probably just form a truce. I feel like they would just end up respecting each other and not really kill. If I had to say definitively one way or another, yes, I'm going to call this one a draw. But I'm going to say definitively, if this happened, if Fancy Free thought that the Mandalorian was definitely going to kill her, she would use a sort of indomitable willpower, jump backwards, probably now that she knows all of his sort of weapons, probably kind of take those out. Oh, he has rockets as well. It's a tough one. Yeah, he probably used some rockets, but I reckon between Giga Drain and Leech Seed, she would be able to like regain her health just as fast as he's doing it, and she probably has more bullets than he has stamina because he has pretty high physical conditioning, but those initial damage would eventually take its toll, and I reckon she'd probably be able to finish him off just in a fight of attrition because she has the ability to regain health. He doesn't. The initial fight, the initial confrontation did deal quite a lot of damage. I don't think he'd be able to sustain it. So I'm going to say draw, but if push comes to shove, I think Fancy Free wins that one. All right, let's go back in. I'll just jump into chat and have a look. SC Pilot, you've been binge watching Gundam? Yeah, I'm getting that from your. You seem definitely very into it at the moment. A lot of Gundam talk. Yeah, Gundam's good. I've not seen, as I said, I like the Universal Century stuff. Haven't really seen it in quite a while. Unicorn would have been the last one I watched, I think. I think I randomly watched um Char's Counterattack, which was pretty cool. But yeah, apart from that, I haven't really seen much. All right, so yeah, second one goes to Fancy Free, but only just two pretty close ones here. So let's get back on Discord. Oh, no, Discord, back on the Patreon, have a look at what we got in terms of stuff. Oops, I'm in the wrong window. Whoop. Whoop. Yeah. All right, what else have we got here? Amethyst versus Lex Luthor. Yeah, I like that one. I'll be back in 1 second. So hang tight. Sorry about that. I would say that was unprofessional of me, but I never claimed to be professional in any way about anything. Oh, I better have this. My throat's getting a little scratchy. Yeah, I was almost not going to do the stream because of my sickness, but I wanted to do it. So I can spend the rest of the day not talking if I lose the old voice. Um, okay, yes, Amethyst versus Lex Luthor. So yeah, this will probably be. Oh, we'll see how long this one goes for. Let's turn that one off. Let's turn a new one on. So two, a little similar to like I guess Shawl and Doctor Doom, but a little bit maybe taken down slightly in terms of power level. We do an amethyst in a little while. So whoop, whoop. So yeah, again, if you weren't quite sure, Amethyst is a character from In Our Shadow, so the comic that I did. We're still doing the second part of it, but she's not in this second part. She was one of the main characters in the first one, but yeah, that, and she has a nose not that long. Whoops, what the heck? Come on, there we go. A horse or something. Oops. Yeah, so she's a rat, and she was sort of the oh, I hate all of this. I hate everything about it. She was the protege of Emperor Shawl for a while. He kind of like headhunted her at a young age because she is quite smart. So she's probably genius level. I don't really like using that term, but yeah, in terms of like just anyone else around, she's like leagues ahead of anyone. She's got incredibly high sort of intelligence, but not very high social intelligence. She's sort of quite gullible and not very good at sort of social interactions and things like that. And yeah, she doesn't really pick up on cues very well in terms of like what people are doing and talking about. She doesn't, at least for the first part of her story. She kind of grows a lot as it goes along, but initially she doesn't really understand. Don't want to draw too many parallels to other stuff, but she doesn't really understand the concept of it, like why you would have like friends and things like that. She's kind of like sort of works alone. She's got her own stuff going on. Yeah, she's got no real stock in friendship. Yeah, so very much like Twilight Sparkle now that I think about it. But that's more of her like fear coming through because the rats are all so paranoid because a little bit of a spoiler for In Our Shadow. Emperor Shawl, who we earlier discussed, had projecting this sort of energy field from the moon, which makes all rats really afraid all the time. So partly a way to control them. So they're always afraid, so much so that like they can't really trust anyone. So sort of friendships in the rat community are a bit strange. It wasn't until she came to Australia on an expedition and met Brianna, who ended up becoming like her partner. Did she kind of find out what it really meant to have someone she could trust eventually? Brianna wasn't the most trustworthy to start with, but yeah, she ended up finding out that she can trust and like gaining a much deeper ability to form friendships than she ever had before. So I think she's going to be in her typical pose of working on her little wrist computer. Yeah, so if we jump into sort of Amethyst's abilities, so I guess physically at first, she's not really any different from a typical rat that exists in this world. So about 2.5 feet tall. They have evolved from being a normal sized rat. With the strength of, I guess, comparable to a human that would be 2.5 feet tall, maybe slightly stronger than that, and certainly stronger while wearing her power suit, which is the same type of one that Shawl wears. So yeah, increases your power 3 times. So again, not a huge amount, but probably put your power on par with a human being, or maybe slightly less than a human being. And yeah, so with that comes the ability to have anti-gravity powers. So not so much to fly for any sort of great stretch, although she could, and we'll come to why in a little bit. But definitely to hover and to counteract any sort of weight that they're wearing, things like that. Yeah, so she pretty high, pretty strong, pretty dexterous, has that sort of heightened awareness that a rat has in order to get out of danger, things like that, and can float and fly for short periods. I guess that segues into The next bit. So she can fly, probably, although she'd need a proper suit to do it. In the comic, she wasn't able to fly because for most of it, she didn't have her own power suit. She had like a busted one. In the one time, it would have been handy to fly when she was like a couple of kilometers high on a big structure called the Twilight Shroud, pylon of that. She couldn't fly down from that because she was not wearing her own power suit. She was wearing a broken one from a monkey that she found in there. But if she was wearing her own suit, she could fly. That's because she is a gravity manipulation prodigy. Her peak skill is that she can manipulate gravity fields using the gravity technology that the rats possess to basically do anything. She can anything to do with like bending energy, bending light, bending space to some extent. She can create like localized black holes with like incredible accuracy and use that to change the route of energy weapons. And she can do that for many, many things at once. So like entire fleets of ships, she can calculate, as long as she has something powerful enough, she can calculate how to bend gravity in such a way that she can change the route of all their energy beams so that they hit different things and completely change the route of a pretty major conflict in that way. But even with smaller, less powerful stuff, she can do a lot of gravity tricks. So yeah, pretty good in that way. And she also has access to being a fairly high-ranking rat in the Shawl Kingdom, being her sort of protege. She has access to a lot of rat technology, so she would be able to bring that to play against someone like Lex Luthor. And actually, like Shawl is incredibly good at sort of gravity manipulation as well, but he doesn't really focus that much into it. And Amethyst also doesn't have his level of ego and his kind of level of flippantness when it comes to stuff that's happening around him because he doesn't really care. He's sort of dissociated from most life forms and most things that happen in real life, where Amethyst is definitely like very focused, very in the moment. And she also has that innate sort of caution that rats have that allow her to sort of have a bit of a spider sense in terms of danger and being able to use technology to its utmost in any situation. So she's got that. So here she is kind of doing some gravity calculations to like do something or other, but I'm not entirely sure what just yet. Yeah, so Amethyst's main abilities is her like genius level intellect, her power suit that gives her sort of fairly high strength and speed and stamina, and her ability to manipulate gravity fields essentially without any limit. She can sort of calculate anything. And in fact, in the sequel to In Our Shadows, she has a bit of a they have a bit of an issue because a lot of the things they were able to do in the first comic they can't do anymore, and they don't really think about that because they haven't got Amethyst. She's not there anymore. So yeah, things are a lot more difficult. They have the technology, they haven't got the skill with which to use it. I guess her downsides is that she is incredibly naive and not in quite socially awkward. And she, in a straight up fight, that doesn't really matter. But if you were to like manipulate her, especially in regards to her sort of self esteem or that sort of thing, she'd probably have a hard time dealing with it. All right, so back over to Mr. Lexicus Luthor, no, Alexander, if I remember Smallville, Alexander something Luthor. Go over to his stats and strats. Lex Luthor. Oh, sorry, no, I was going to draw him. Oh yeah, I've got to get his stats and then I'll see if I can draw him. He's a bald man. What's his name? Michael Rosenbaum, I think, played him in Smallville, alongside Tom Welling. So that's what I always think of, and like he actually looks a lot like a friend slash frenemy I had in high school. That's like, well, primary school, high school in Australia. That's like up to grade 10. Sorry, in Tasmania, it changes in different states, but sort of from grade 5 to grade 8, he was in my sphere of influence. And he basically looked exactly like Lex Luthor. Okay, so what's Lex Luthor's powers and abilities? He has the physical capabilities of a normal adult human, so much like Amethyst. Again, very similar in terms of their comparison to a normal animal of their type. No metahuman abilities. He's depicted as the most intelligent human in the DC universe. Yeah, which is saying something. I wouldn't say there's not as many geniuses in DC as there are in Marvel, but certainly that definitely means something. So they're both one of the, like, in some way, Amethyst is the smartest, probably personal creature alive in that universe, and so is Lex Luthor. So they're pretty similar in that way. Although Lex Luthor's intelligence is probably a little more like wide ranging, whereas Amethyst is like purely scientific. So he possesses an eidetic memory. Yeah, so basically photographic memory, I think that means. Mastered seemingly every known form of science, including space travel, extra-dimensional travel, biochemistry, robotics, nanotechnology, computer engineering, synthetic polymers, communication technologies, genetic mutation, holography, energy generation, spectral analysis, and time travel. Okay. So he's a normal person, except that he can do anything. And now I do know that he may, like, in sort of the later, I say later, but probably like 2004 onwards, he has like a power suit that like has some kryptonite in it and stuff. And so he can sort of fight against Superman. So much like Amethyst, he also has its own suit. So I'm probably going to draw that. Let's see if I can find a picture of that, and then we'll have a little discuss. Okay, let's draw Lex Luthor from memory. So he's a bald man. So let's see. Who to be bald? Oh, there we go. A world I may never know. So I know he has like really, because we started a new D&D campaign, or actually like a cyberpunk one, and my character's got like these big O eyebrows. So I like giving a big eyebrow to a person. And so I'm yeah, pretty sure he has that. If I recall correctly, he's always like, person who's in the room, I'm also way smarter than you and also way richer than you, and I probably used you for your purpose, and now you're of no further use to me. Oh, he's not the critic. His nose really isn't that long. Oh, what's his nose do? I don't know. I feel like he's sort of kind of gaunt. He's like, yeah, I feel like at least in the early stages, he's like, oh, maybe he doesn't have quite that amount of like lineage to his face. I feel like he's something like this a lot of the time. And he's like, oh, he's got like pretty thick neck. So it's being like, I bet when I look at his like proper, oh no, his palace didn't say he's like peak physical human condition, but I do recall he's pretty thick anyway. Like his suit, sort of he's got the Dragon Ball Z, my neck starts where my ears are kind of neck. So this, I reckon, like he'll start off kind of like condescending at least, whereas Amethyst would, well, that mouth is horrendous. Let's fix that up. Whereas Amethyst would probably come in straight away with like a fairly serious attitude. Oh, the other thing, which is probably a problem for Amethyst, is that she is a massive human fangirl. So she like loves humanity. She loves everything they made, all of their pop culture. And like her driving goal in the comic was to bring them back, find a way to do that. And she might not kind of, at least at the start, bring her sort of A game when it comes to Alexander over here. So he'd have some like suit. It costs more than your education. And he'd have his like arms behind his back, at least at the start. This is probably going to evolve as it goes on. Oh, he's more shredded than that. He's like way. I guess like a normal human in the DC universe is kind of like to cover up for the fact that no one questions why Clark Kent is like a kind of Schwarzenegger level bodybuilder. Like everybody else also is about the same with their 80-inch shoulders. Yeah, that's better. That already looks more Luthorish. It's like he's super genius. He also is like absolutely shredded AF. I'd sort of, you'd think I'd have like shreddedness kind of ingrained into my psyche at the moment after how much One Piece I've been watching. So as you go through that, sort of maybe every 100 episodes or so, they add an extra peck, an extra an extra couple of abs to their 8-pack that they already have. So they, yeah, I'm no stranger to like to a muscle guy. He looks like Kingpin at the moment. Maybe I've gone a bit too far in some places. That's all right. Let's say that's a foreshortening or perspective from this perspective. Okay, so unlike the last one where we had two essentially good people, I feel like this one is not going to end in a draw. In no way. Like at this point, they both want to attack each other. They both see each other as a threat that needs to be taken out, and they're probably going to keep on going until that happens. So yeah, we've got Lex Luthor, we've got Amethyst. So he's a genius in basically always all forms of scientific stuff. So in the first sort of opening bouts of the fight, I would say that let's set up a little scenario. I guess he'd probably like be curious. Let's say he's like used his time machine to kind of go into the future, and then he's brought a lot of his stuff over there, and he's seeing all these animal people, and he's like, he wants to conquer the animal world of the distant future, and he's brought with him like any sort of technology that he'd want to bring, which means that Amethyst also has access to a lot of that. So we'd say like peak Amethyst power is probably while she was still like under Emperor Shawl, although he's not going to take part for whatever reason. Doctor Doom already killed him, maybe. And so she also has access to like the stuff that he had, or the stuff that she would normally have in that scenario. So he'd probably start off like not really knowing, although he's a genius, so he'd probably do a bit of research and kind of like find out the capabilities of stuff. And we do have his power suit, which he would definitely be wearing. So let's look up a picture of what he actually looks like. And well, we'll make him his power suit as well because I feel like he would have that. That doesn't look like him. Oh, that I found one that kind of looks like Darkseid in a weird Superman suit. But I think I remember a storyline where he got so badly messed up, he just like lost all his limbs and stuff. So I think he's in like a full bodysuit. He'd be completely ruined. Let's leave the suit. Yeah, this is the one. The war suit. That's it. That's the one I was looking for. All right. So it's big and green and purple. That's cool. So most of this I'm not going to be seeing. So this is their initial confrontation, I guess. And he'd probably do a thing where he'd initially just try to get them to like surrender and give a pretty good reason for why they should, or form a partnership or something like that. That he would eventually double cross. And so he'd probably come in his business suit form and have a discussion about it. But I feel like Amethyst would be able to detect, even though she's a little kind of socially awkward and stuff, she's also incredibly fearful and paranoid. And she's also got the ability that all animals have in this world, which is that their language is partially based on sort of body language and like facial stuff. And even though they can't really use that to sort of communicate with humans, she'd probably be able to pick up on some cues, and she would also have a human translator because she is fluent in human language. She's alone. That would not be a problem because she understands human language. She's the only rat that innately does. All the others need a translator for it. So she would actually have a pretty big upper hand here. He would not be able to understand her, but she can understand him. So you either need a rudimentary translator, or he would need her to kind of sort of spell it out for him in like a text to like a speech to text or something like that. He would have a pretty big disadvantage in that way. So she's not a mind reader, but she is able to like pick up on like cues, and he, even though he's a genius, he may not know that that's the case. course, he hasn't really had much to do with it. So he wouldn't be able to know that she knows, kind of based on his, even though he's got a pretty good poker face and all that kind of stuff, from his body language, just because that's part of how animals communicate, he'd be projecting his intentions. So she would know that he didn't have any intention of actually like letting them, exist sort of peacefully under his rule, that he's got sort of nefarious intents here. So yeah, she would immediately be on the defensive about that. And so when kind of the betrayal first came, she'd be ready, and he perhaps would be kind of caught off guard by that. So yeah, they begin their fight with her already ready to go with all the technology she would need. Again, I've made this suit a little bit big. Let me just... Oh no, let's stick with it. Maybe I'll make his head a little bigger, because that's fine. He'd be bigger than that compared to her anyway. So let's get a little select tool. If I can get the right type of one. My brain's too foggy to worry about that sort of stuff. He's just in a really big suit. So we'd put him maybe his hands together. I'll get rid of that. Okay, good. Why? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so he probably would have like surface level investigated a lot of the technology that is around, and given that he's a genius in all forms of technology, he would pretty quickly be able to probably form counters for what's going on. He probably came in pretty haphazard, assuming that he would be able to dominate this world of animals pretty quickly, maybe without knowing exactly what their capabilities are. So he, I guess because he's generally fighting like other superheroes, mainly the Supermans, things like that. I don't know what sort of like just regular machines he has at his disposal. So I don't know whether he has a kind of like machines or aircraft or anything like that to kind of go toe to toe with the other sort of stuff around. But I'd say initially, yeah, so the communication breaks down. He sort of summons the war suit and sort of begins maybe a pre-set up thing to take over the land of the animals. But Amethyst would have known that was about to happen. So she'd be able to... Where did I just put that suit picture? Oh, here it is. All right. So he'd probably start by kind of attacking her immediately. And she would counter by having her pre-prepared sort of gravity manipulation stuff. They're sort of winding up for a punch. So yeah, just in the very building they're in, probably using some gravity to like hold him in place. And eventually that would probably be taken over by his suit's sort of ability to resist it. So because his suit has the ability to resist blows from Superman, even like the incredibly dense gravity field produced by kind of Amethyst's gravity manipulation initial like attack probably wouldn't be enough to sort of breach the armor. Probably he'd be like held in place for a little bit by it. But yeah, enough gravity to kind of like form a small black hole, like singularity. And he would also have his force field kind of resisting that as well. So that his suit has a force field. Amethyst may not necessarily know what he has just right off the bat. And she'd probably be able to increase the intensity of the gravity field. And probably Lex Luthor would need to probably direct like a lot of his suit's power to, because I feel like even though he can resist a blow from Superman, that's a little different from like resisting, say, like a small black hole. So he, like probably initially he'd take like a little bit of damage from that, not knowing kind of exactly how kind of powerful it was going to be. And yeah, but then eventually the force field would go up, and then um, he would be able to resist a lot of that gravity field with the energy field. But Amethyst, of course, is able to draw on like essentially infinite energy because of the way the gravity technology works. And especially now, it would be connected to the Twilight Shroud, which is effectively infinite. So at this point, he'd probably have to appeal to something else. He'd probably be kept in check at this point. Even the ability to resist like a Superman punch, I feel like yes, you could do that, but you'd still be probably kept in check by a black hole intensity level kind of force field, power field. And he'd at the very least be directing all of his power to resisting it. So he'd be forced to, excuse me, he'd be forced to like use some of his other abilities at this point. So in a straight up physical fight, eventually I think Amethyst's like just ability to control this gravity field so perfectly to like sort of just crush his suit eventually, and it would be getting there. So yeah, a lot of damage to the suit. But then that's not all. Sorry, that probably peaked the mic. He's got a lot of powers that aren't just that. He has a lot of other things. His suit was actually, I think it was made in on Apocalypse, the planet. I'm not massively onto DC, but I do know it was made on the planet Apocalypse, and they had like all this crazy alien technology that allowed it to have it inbuilt with a lot of things that you wouldn't normally associate with just like a power suit. One of those things, he can create illusions, and um, he can do telekinesis. So he'd probably like have a look across to how she's controlling this gravity thing, and he would probably be able to sort of control this with his telekinesis. So he'd probably have a look at it. He's a super genius, so and these things aren't really built to be super difficult to use. So he wouldn't be able to read the language to like get it to do anything in particular, but he could probably use his telekinesis to mess it up a little bit. So it would probably go haywire on the suit, and then that would cause the gravity field to collapse. Um, so he'd be able to stop that one. So yeah, he'd be out of the gravity field, and he wouldn't be being affected by that anymore. At that point, he'd probably, now that he knows sort of the threat that Amethyst poses, he'd probably bring some of his other abilities to bear. And so he'd probably bring some of his other stuff. He has powers of illusion. So he'd maybe like sort of create some illusions around. He might bank on that working for a bit, but again, Amethyst has some keen sort of rat senses. So she'd be not really fooled by that because her sense of smell and stuff like that. But she'd probably use that to her advantage. Not that she's like incredibly like, if she was more like cunning, she'd probably like pretend to be fooled by it and like use that to her advantage. But that's not really in her character, so she probably wouldn't do that. So Luther would probably just be annoyed that the illusions aren't working, and so he'd probably have to do some other stuff. So the warsuit can do some other insane things. So he can do some energy projection. So he'd probably try that out. So I guess do some energy beams at Amethyst. But again, even though she got disrupted, he hasn't got the ability to actually destroy her machines because he doesn't really know how they work, and he can't really use telekinesis to do that. So he's going. So she'd be able to very quickly counter his energy stuff. So probably any energy beams that he does like launch against her, she'd be able to very quickly, like almost automatically, like reroute them. She has two gauntlets, by the way, so she'd be able to like use them both. She's ambidextrous, and I don't think Lex Luthor is. It didn't say that he is. So she can like use both of them at once. Several times in the comic, she's used two energy computers at once to do some stuff. So she'd actually be able to deflect any kind of physical or energy beam just with the power of the Twilight Shroud to divert any kind of energy. So at this point, she could probably direct some more energy towards him, and probably she would actually, I think, eventually break through it. Like he'd be like she's smart enough and quick enough to avoid any of the beams that he's bringing in, any of the physical weaponry, all those bullets, blasts and stuff like that, would be stopped by the gravity as well, or at least slowed down enough to be avoided really easily. And at this point, Amethyst would probably just like leave and bring in some heavier guns. Um, Now, one thing eventually Lex would have to start to bring in some abilities of his suit that he would probably only use if he absolutely had to. He can use dematerialization, so he can actually dematerialize his suit for a fraction of a second and bring it back again. So he'd probably use that to materialize and sort of teleport slightly outside the range of this gravity field, and really take the opportunity to do that when he had a chance when Amethyst kind of left to bring in some heavier guns. So yeah, she'd probably sort of hide, and because she's not really a frontline fighter, she'd probably hide somewhere and bring in some of the big striders to attack. And at this point, he'd probably have to use his suit to do some scientific analysis, because at this point he's come up against some stuff that he wasn't really ready for. So probably spend a second to do some analysis of all the machines that are around, so all the striders, all the stuff like that. And that probably would take a little second to work. So in that time, he's under bombardment from the diffusers and the gravity weapons of the Giga class striders and all these huge weapons. The Gigas are the ones I talked about before, like the 2 kilometer long striders that like sort of bring this stuff in. His suit would be basically obliterated at that point. But just before it probably is, I'd say, yeah, he sort of find out the sort of how everything works and find a way to counter all that. So counter the oxidization wave, although I think his suit isn't made out of iron, so it's resistant to that anyway, so it can't get destroyed that way. But certainly he'd find a way to counteract the kind of the gravity weapons and neutralize all those machines. So and probably he brought with him enough stuff to like allow that to happen. So initially, and sort of his suit, I'd say, would probably be basically destroyed. But before that, he would be able to destroy a lot of the rat stuff as well, and find a way to counter it using his superhuman intelligence. And yeah, but between that, so all of his stuff would probably get destroyed, I reckon, and so he'd be on his own at this point. But at the very last second, his suit, which is self-aware, by the way, would probably spend its last action to kind of teleport him and save his life. So he'd be off somewhere. At this point, he'd probably like kind of run off and sort of do his own thing. And yeah, I feel like Amethyst might actually win this one. I feel like Lex Luthor, even if so, he'd bring some other stuff to his aid, but at this point he's lost his apocalypse built suit. He's lost a lot of his advantage, and eventually he'd realize that Amethyst can predict his moves because she can read his body language, and he may not. It might take him a second to realize what's happening with that, and eventually he would probably be able to figure that out, find a way to counter it. But he probably wouldn't have time, and I feel like with all the resources of the Rat Universe, her understanding of just gravity, I think she'd probably take him out. So unless anyone has any objection, I think even though he might find a way to to counter all the technology and eventually reverse engineer the rat stuff or take control of them even, I think he didn't have enough time. I think Amethyst just keep the pressure on, keep him in that gravity stasis, force all of his energy into defense, and eventually wear him down. So yeah, I think we're going to give this one to Amethyst. Lex Luthor defeated. All right, what have we got? 9 minutes. Jump back into chat real quick and see. I may or may not do another one. My throat's getting a bit not loving it. So, but that's okay. I mean, when I was as a teacher and I was teaching and I was sick, it was worse. I had to talk even more. Let's see. Oh, see, it's abandoned. He left us. He left us. Any chance for a Jurassic Park quote? Jim will make one. Glad to see you're feeling better. Yeah, I'm better-ish. I'm not great. Kind of sweating a little. Have to have a little lie down after this, I think. I have friends who prefer Lex Luthor from the Superman animated series. Yeah, I think he was okay. From what I've seen of that, that's pretty cool. I mean, he was more typical like comic books Lex Luthor, not like precursor Lex Luthor. Yeah, Luthor would want to conquer the animal world so we can use their tech to kill Superman. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you captured Luthor's smugness perfectly. Thank you. Yeah, comic lore can get messy at times. Yeah, it's like insanity. It's like crazy. It's really like Silver Age stuff. It's just like they can just do whatever they wanted or whatever they needed to do at the time. Just finished up on my end and have unmuted. Oh, great, cool, welcome. Whenever that was that you sent that, he'd probably cut his losses and leave. Yeah, I feel like she wouldn't kill him. I feel like he'd make his escape. Yeah, he'd probably use his time machine. He'd go back in time and come back and use the knowledge that he gained to probably eventually have the upper hand. But at least for this round, I think he'd probably lose. Hooray for Amethyst! Yeah, I was thinking, because up until the very end, I was like, I think I was thinking, I bet all of my characters lose all of these if I'm being objective about it. This one especially, because Amethyst isn't actually that physically strong or anything. But the more I thought about it, she has some little secret like talents that, particularly against Luther, particularly against a human, and particularly against a human who hasn't had any interaction with the animals, she actually have pretty big lead. Jurassic Park for life, says G. Winner is whoever the writer wants to win in comics. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I've got 9 minutes. I might end a little early. I will do a. I might add a little bit to the back of this. I'm going to add some like again some striders and whatnot. I probably should have been doing this before when I was drawing the other stuff and just sort of shooting and like I feel like the whole place would be it's an illusion. It's like a ditto illusion. I think that's probably why she can see through it. And yeah, I feel like everything would just be absolutely like destroyed all around like the place. So there'd be a lot of collateral damage in this fight, but it would be yeah, it'd be a type one and a lot of destruction. But I think in the end, that's kind of how it would be. Okay, I might just do one real quick one, see if I can do one in 8 minutes. So we'll go back here. Uh, oh yeah, the Johan versus Beerus. I might leave that one for next time because I think that would take quite a while. I kind of blabbered on a bit too much. I also had to look up again. I didn't watch all of the Dragon Ball arc with Beerus in, so I'm not entirely sure about his capabilities. So that's too. No, I'll do it real quick because it'll be stupid. All right. Yeah, I've got a few minutes, and then I'll do a quick dragon. Beerus. Okay, well, he got the okay. Um, hmm. I see. All right. Well, let's just do a little quick pick. Well, quick pick. So I've got Johan. I won't draw a bold Johan because I draw him like that too many times. Um, yeah. So I think first of all, yeah. I think like this is like the first time ever in his existence. I think that he would actually be forced into using probably anything close to his true power. Um, Johan, by the way, is the spoilers. It's a comic a million years ago, but he's basically a god. So he is a dinosaur, which in this universe means that you've gained complete knowledge of the universe. You know exactly how everything works. You can bend reality to your will. Basically, you can fight. You can convert matter into energy and back again. You can survive off yeah, just sucking the energy out of all like subatomic and atomic particles. You can't go back in time, but you can basically exist in a timeless state. You can you can sort of rewrite reality. You can restructure the world. You can you can change people's minds. You can bring people back from the dead. But you can do a lot of stuff. And for most of his existence, Johan, who had sort of like lost all of his memories, kind of on purpose, or rather, everyone who wanted to kill him wanted his memories to be gone so they could kill him. He'd sort of been reborn for most of his life because all the dinosaurs ended up getting destroyed for reasons that I won't go into. But he ended up being reborn as like a jackal type creature, and he didn't have all of his abilities to start with, but he eventually like regained them all. He can teleport. He can fly. He can exist in space. He can sort of resist basically anything. He can read minds. Is there anything he can't do? Not really. He's got superhuman like speed that basically is the same as time not existing. I think I mentioned something like that. And he's basically omnipotent because he can sort of weave and like see the parts of the future as they're going to unfold and predict what's going to happen. So at the peak of his power, that's what Johan can do. And then Beerus, I was kind of giggling before because it's gonna have to be a quick one because you have only a couple of minutes left, but his nose isn't quite that long, something like that. Is yeah, again, I didn't really know much about him, but I just kind of looked up powers, and his first power was ability to destroy the universe. Like, all right, I'm glad we kept it really low key, low power levels for this one. He's got some ears, and I think he's kind of short, so he's probably like a little shorter than this, but that's fine. It's good enough. Because Johan's pretty tall. And then he's got his neck thing. Maybe like later on when I've got a bit more time, I'll change the size. What would happen if these two fought? If they came at it at full force straight away? Okay, I've got like 3 minutes to think about this. Okay, he's probably in the foreground. We're gonna make it he's in the foreground, and like Johan's actually kind of looking sideways because they're kind of like just zooming around each other a little bit, kind of like speed of light kind of stuff. And let's really change this pupil to be more like over there. I shouldn't be so fussy when I've only got a couple of minutes to go. And yeah, I feel like he's like this. He's got like those eyes that are sort of really, really weird and sort of lidded like that. They'd come across each other, they'd probably immediately be aware that the threat that each other posed was, and they'd immediately try to like deal with each other. So yeah, how would they go about doing that? I haven't really thought about it, but okay. If Beerus just wanted to destroy Johan, I guess he would start by okay, let's look up some more specific powers just to see what he would be doing here. He can, okay, tail attack. He can have prophetic dreams, so they can both sort of see the future. He can emit sort of ki from his palms, sun-like aura at his body, and fire at his opponent. Pressure point attack, render them unconscious. Energy bullet, God of Destruction's wrath, multiple ki blasts or an aura in all directions. Sphere of destruction. You can increase the size of the sphere, but it the Beerus ball is also named. Okay, big energy attack. Okay, so he's doing some. So I guess I'm going to draw this in the same way like a Dragon Ball Z fight would go, where they just like gone super fast and they oh yeah, Johan would have his weapon of choice, which is his phase transition pistol, probably at least to start with. But he does also have an energy blast from his hand. So yeah, we're gonna have this like energy blast going everywhere. Your pistol like shooting everywhere, and then just huge stuff. I'm gonna do this too crazy, but long story short, they would be able to both do attacks that would be just like destroying reality, both being able to predict each other's stuff. Um, and I don't see how this ends up being anything but a. Let's get that picture of Beerus back again. Oh yeah, I don't want to draw the whole thing of him, but he's got one of those things and he's got one of those things. I think the thing that clinches it is that they can both sort of destroy the universe. I think Johan's abilities to see the future or divine the way the future is working possibly puts him slightly over the edge. I didn't want this to be a like, oh, my characters are going to win. But yeah, feel free to chime up if you think it's not that, if not the case. But Beerus can only see the future in his prophetic dreams of the future. I don't think he can do it just at will all the time. Having said that, I feel like Johan can't just destroy the universe like off the bat. So I feel like Johan would be able to outpace him, outmatch him in a fight, but then Beerus would just destroy the universe. So I guess in that way, Johan would win in a fight, Beerus would still win. So yeah, we'll give it to Beerus. He will lose the fight, but just before he does, he destroys the universe. Johan can see that's going to happen. That doesn't matter. If he can indeed destroy the universe in the way that it says, like just like that, like Thanos snap, I don't think even a dinosaur who can manipulate the universe can do anything about that. So yeah, we're going to give it to Beerus on this one. Might as well give him his his earrings. That's probably the like worst picture of him that I could possibly have drawn. Oh, he got some weird cheekbones. There we go. But yeah, whoa, a dragon. Quickly, we got one second. That Christmas dragon. Okay. Sorry, stream's a little long, but it's Christmas stream, festive season, festive spirit, spirit of demons and beesmas. Okay, Christmas dragon. It's gonna be like top speed dragonness. What makes it a dragon? Obviously, well, the fact that it's got a red nose and the fact that it's enslaved to Santa and on the sleigh. And then, so here's a Santa, and then 100% Santa. Ho ho ho! It doesn't need that sleigh anymore. The dragons are just going to be holding the presents. And we've got yeah, it works. I'm gonna have this, but yeah, we've got the wings here. We've got the big man himself up on the top, and the Rudolph. It's a prosthetic. Don't worry about it. A prosthetic Rudolph dragon. Bringing all the gifts, all the good little boys and ladies in the universe, and that is the spirit of the season, spirit of Christmas. Dragon. It's got a saddle, I guess. Christmas dragon, flying through the night, visiting upon the world, the gift. If you left out you Christmas, your adventure is in a glass of milk. Your adventure is in a cage next to the glass of milk, so the dragon can have a little midnight snack. And there we have the. Oh, I guess the horns could be antlers. And what else is the Christmas? We can have a little holly garland and a bauble on its wrist. That ain't Christmas. I don't know what is. Okay, Merry Christmas, everyone. Probably won't be another stream before Christmas. Thanks for sticking with me, and hope hopefully I'll be better by then. But yeah, not as many pictures this time, but it's been fun. Let me know what you thought about this, or do you want me to do another one of these. Um, if you want to be involved with this or any of the other ones, join the Patreon. Although I know all you awesome people already are on there, so thanks so much for helping me do this. Um, Even though I'm losing them a little bit, it's great to know you guys are still there and helping support me do what I do as much as I can. Now that I'm not sick, I'll be able to get back into doing more comic pages. I do have a comic page coming out later today for the Patreons, so that's going to be good. Anyway, good night, good morning, good whatever it is. Let me just check the stream one last time. I wonder if Clover could defeat her grandfather. That's for next time. Whoa. Thank you, awesome stream. No problem. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys. Thanks for sticking with me and da 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 da. I'll catch you next time. How do I stop this thing? I did that as a bit, but I actually can't remember. Here we go. Bye.